So good afternoon to you all. Thank you for making time to join the class. Today we are making progress from what we did last week. We are going to look at indifference curve analysis. I think this is the only thing I'm going to teach today. So I entreat you to pay attention so that we'll be able to cover as much as possible. Of course, you know my name. Now, when we talk about indifference curve analysis, we are saying that it is a fundamental tool in microeconomics that is used to understand consumer preferences and choice behavior. Remember, I've said already in this class that one of the fundamental principles of consumer preference is choice. And I also said the other time that there are two schools of thought that we deal with when we are talking about consumer preferences and then utility issues. I said that there's a school of thought that believes that utility can be measured, and then there are those who believe that utility can be ranked. So last week we looked at those who believe that utility can be measured, and we did total utility, marginal utility, average utility, and all those calculations to depict that, yes, we can assign numbers to our utility, and then we can do some additions with respect to the satisfaction that we derive in enjoying any particular commodity. Then we ended with that. So today we are looking at those who believe that utility can be ranked. And I remember I told you that when we say you are ranking something, it means that you are saying that one level is higher than another level. So I gave an example of you teachers, your ranks in the teaching profession. So we have those who are how do you call it? Those who are superintendents, principal superintendents, assistant directors, deputy one, and all those things. That is the rank in the teaching profession. And so we are also saying that the kind of satisfaction that you derive in consuming any commodity can be ranked. That is the point that indifference curve analysis looks at. Okay, so somebody is saying my volume is low. Please, I'm operating at 100%. So please check your machine. It's raining. Yeah, as for the rain, it will rain. If I mention your name and you are gone off, that one it's your own trouble. All right, so let's continue. So we now go on and look at what is this indifference curve that we talk about so much. What is it? We say that indifference curve represents all combinations of two goods that provide the consumer with the same level of satisfaction or utility. A consumer is indifferent among all points on the same curve. So when we talk about an indifference curve, we are saying that this is a curve that gives you an understanding of the combination of two goods that gives the consumer the same level of satisfaction or utility. Okay, so for example, we say that if a consumer has got 4 apples and 2 bananas, we can put it together in an indifference form and say that the consumer is indifferent among these points that he's supposed to consume. Let me go to the board and then do an illustration. So we have, we said apple. So apple is represented by A. And we said that the apple, we have 4 apples. And then we have banana. Banana. That is 2. Okay. So these are combinations of 2 commodities. If we are talking about an indifference curve, we are saying that this side is apple and this side is banana. So we have 4 apples and 2 banana. I can draw a curve to the point that these two meet. So this is supposed to be 4, and then this is supposed to be 2. The origin is always 0. Now, this point is the point that depicts that the individual is consuming 4 pieces of apple and then 2 fingers of banana. And we are saying that if there's any point on this curve, let me name it IC. IC means indifference curve, not incomplete. We are saying that if there's any point on this curve, then that point is a point of satisfaction. And the individual who is using or whose indifference curve we are showing is enjoying the same level of satisfaction on points on this curve. So we can say that this is point A. Okay, let me use another thing. Point A is, so you can say that this is point C. So point C is a point of satisfaction indicating that the individual is indifferent in the consumption of apple and banana. Right. Now, we can have another point of satisfaction here. So let's say this is 0.5, 5 bananas, and then 3 apples. So far as the point is on the indifference curve, we say that the consumer is what? Having the highest level of satisfaction. And we also said that a consumer can be on point C or point D, and that consumer, we will say, is indifferent. Whether the consumer is consuming at point C or point D, that consumer is enjoying the same level of satisfaction. And that's why we say that points on the indifference curve indicates the same level of what? Satisfaction. Points on the indifference curve indicates the same level of what? Satisfaction. Any question? 2 minutes for reflection and question. If you have a question, just put it in the chat box. 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'll continue. If you have a question, put it in the chat box. I will address it. Please repeat what you said about the point on the indifference curve. What I'm saying, Beatrice, what I'm saying is that points on the indifference curve depict the same level of satisfaction. So if you are consuming 4 pieces of apple and 2 fingers of banana, your satisfaction is the same as the one consuming 3 pieces of apple and 5 pieces of what? Banana. That is the point you're making. So any point on the indifference curve depicts the same level of satisfaction, and therefore we can say that the individual is indifferent between point C and point D. Is it clear? Good. So as I wait for another question, let me do some quick roll call. Bogatanga guess. Do we have Atiga Elijah here? Elijah, are you online? Elijah didn't come to school today. Okay, let me mark his name. Dauda Yakubu, are you here? Yakubu Dauda, you're also not here. Okay. Let me jump to Riverview. Yakubu Dauda is here. You are lucky. Let me cancel it. You are lucky. Okay, so there's a question. Let me pause. Sir, please. So the C and D is the same. Yes, please. So point C and D gives the same level of satisfaction. So it matters not whether you are consuming at point C or point D, because it's on the same indifference curve, we say that you are having the same level of satisfaction. Those touching their screen should stop. You are just distorting my board, and that is not good for your own recording purposes. When you do that and I don't get a good recording for you, don't blame me. Stop touching your screen. You can't do this in Iran. They will bomb you. Okay. Yes, any other question? Whilst I wait for them, let me go and do mine. Riverview, I'm on you. Riverview, Kaswa 4. Chumesi Emmanuel, are you here? Ah, yeah, Chumesi, I can see your face. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, David. Open class, Badodo. Chumesi is here. I know Chumesi, so that one. Yes, Chumesi is always here because his picture is there. I always see him. Ewuku Gifty Jamia, are you here? Gifty is not in class today. Good. Samuel Aburam, are you here? Oh, okay. Ewuku is here. Sorry. Let me cancel it. Aburam Samuel, are you here? Abraham is not in class today. Okay, good. Margaret Mensah, I think she always comes to class. I don't know if she's here today. Margaret Mensah. Ah, and then Ruku Afano. Let me pick the last one from here. Minta Katrin. Katrin Minta, you are not here. Okay. So, oh yeah, I know Margaret is always in class. Yeah, Margaret is here. Good. But Minta is not here. Minta is not here. All right. Let's continue. So we make progress. So this is a typical indifference curve. Okay, let me go down and then illustrate it again because it's very, very important that we know how we draw the indifference curve. And here, Bernard, I've said that I am not unmuting anybody. If you have something to say, type it. All right, so we have X and Y, as usual, being two different commodities. And then we draw this. This is an indifference curve. Okay. So we are saying that all points on this indifference curve. So you see, I'm trying to do points here. All right. So let's say this is A. This is B. This is C. This is D. And then this is E. The point I am making is that all points on this indifference curve, all points from A to E, all points on this indifference curve gives the same level of satisfaction. So we say that the individual is indifferent among points on the same indifference curve. That needs to be clear. The individual is indifferent among points on the same indifference curve. If perchance there is another indifference curve, and I will be teaching that very soon, but let me mention it. If perchance there is another indifference curve, IC2, then we have a point here which is M. Then you cannot say that the individual is indifferent between point A and point M. Okay? But for point A, B, C, D, and E, because they are on the same indifference curve, we say that the individual is what? Is indifferent. Is that clear? You can just type yes. Okay. Beatrice says no. What is the issue again? Beatrice, what's the issue again? Aiba says no. What is the issue again? Beatrice, how do I calm down? I'm not standing on anything. No. How do I calm down? Vida says I should go over again. Okay. So I think those who said no, I'm going over again for you to see. With IC2, don't worry, we'll talk about IC2. I wanted to use that to depict something. So let me say this again. When we have one indifference curve, like IC1 here, points on that indifference curve, please stop touching your screen. Hey, babe. That's what I'm funny. So let me do this. I'm saying that when we have an indifference curve like this, points on the indifference curve are the same. They give the same level of satisfaction. So point A, point B, point C will give the same level of satisfaction. That's the point I'm trying to make. You get it? So let's understand this. If you have an indifference curve 1, IC1, points on it gives the same level of satisfaction. Now, if there's another indifference curve higher than IC1, which in this case we are going to call IC2, and there's a point on IC2 called M, you cannot say that M and B give the same level of satisfaction because M is on a higher indifference curve, which is IC2. Is it clear now? Beatrice and the rest, is it clear now? Okay. Perfect. So let's go back to the slides. Where is it? Okay. So we have said that an indifference curve represents all combination of two goods. So you see that in the diagram that I drew, I had two goods, X and Y, banana and apple. It means that in doing analysis, we are always looking at two goods that provide the consumer with the same level of satisfaction or utility. That is done. Let's make progress. There's a message here. Let me see. Oh, okay, it's normal. Let's make progress. Now, what are the assumptions underlying indifference curve analysis? What are the assumptions underlying indifference curve analysis? Remember, we said that in economics, we do a lot of assumptions to ensure that our analysis makes sense. So the first assumption is that the consumer is seen as rational and he aims to maximize utility. The consumer is seen as rational and he aims to maximize utility. That means that the first assumption is rationality. Remember, we said that it is true that sometimes people will not behave the way that normal human beings will behave. But in economics, we look at rational behavior. Okay, we look at behavior that makes sense. So every individual, when you want to satisfy yourself with the consumption of any commodity, you want to what? To maximize your utility. So even with the little that you have, you try as much as possible to what? Get the best out of it. And that is the point that we are making here, that the consumer is rational, which means that if he has to do certain things in order to increase his level of satisfaction, that consumer will do that. Okay, that consumer will do that. Now, the second assumption is that we are looking at ordinal utility. Remember, last week we talked about cardinal and ordinal list. Now, under indifference curve, we are looking at ordinal utility. So we are saying that preferences can be ranked. So there can be a first preference, a second preference, and a third preference, but they are not measured numerically. Last week, we looked at how we measure preferences numerically. Today, we are looking at how we rank preferences. Okay, so you might have a list of commodities, and you would have a certain kind of preference for these commodities, and that your preference can be put can be ranked. So if you put gobe and then you put fried rice there, and then you put kenke, somebody would rank gobe first, fried rice second, and then maybe kenke third. Of course, I won't mention fufu because fufu is not something that you should be eating. Okay, so I will not add fufu. So even if I add fufu, I'll rank fufu fourth. Okay, but the first thing that you need to eat as a person is gobe. You need to enjoy gobe. What I said. So we are saying that preferences can be ranked, and by saying that, the assumption is that we are looking at ordinal utility. You are looking at ordinal utility. Good. The third thing is diminishing marginal rate of substitution. We say that as the consumer substitute one good for another, the willingness to substitute decreases. And I will explain this using a diagram. I'll go back and then explain this. But what we're saying here is that the consumer is always willing to substitute one commodity for another. And as he does that, the willingness to do that decreases. That is also an assumption. That is an assumption. That is an assumption. So the first assumption is rationality. The second one is ordinal utility. The third one is diminishing marginal rate of substitution. And with diminishing marginal rate of substitution, we are saying that the individual has the potential to substitute one commodity for the other. And the tendency or the willingness to do that kind of substitution decreases as the individual progresses in whatever it is that he's doing. Okay, then the fourth assumption is that there is the principle of completeness. Consumers can rank all combinations. Okay, so the consumer can rank all combinations. All right, so it doesn't matter the nature of the combinations that you are dealing with. The consumer can rank it. It could be 1,000, 2,000 combinations. The consumer can rank it. And that means completeness. Then we have the principle of transitivity. The principle of transitivity says that if you prefer A to B and you prefer B to C, then automatically you should prefer A to C. That is consistency in your preferences. You cannot say that you prefer A to B and B to C, but then you prefer A to, let's say, C to A. No, that means that you are not being consistent. And I'll demonstrate this to you when I go back to the board. And then the last assumption is what we call the principle of non-satiation. Non-satiation, if you forget, just remember Oliver Twist. More of a good is always preferred to less. The individual would always want to get more than less. And that is the principle of non-satiation. These are 6 assumptions that we work with. These are 6 assumptions that we work with under indifference curve analysis. If you have any question, I'm giving you 3 minutes to reflect and then ask your questions. You put it in the chat box, I'll address it. 8 questions. Let me see. Okay, so somebody says so say go away. That is not a question. Please explain the diminishing marginal again. All right, I will do that. Next question is what? Please explain 0.5. 0.5 is transitivity. I will do that. Sir, please, under the completeness, can we still have IC? Sir, please, under completeness, can we still have IC? Beatrice, I don't understand your question. No. I don't understand your question. Please, I can't hear you again. Check your machine. Doc, is it possible for one to prefer more of a good if he or she has had an unpleasant experience with the good? That is why we say you are dealing with rationality. Rationality. Sir, please, I can't hear you. But was I talking? You can't hear me still. Can we have indifference? Beatrice, what is that? I don't know. I said, why hyper be? Can we have indifference? What is that? As Empa says, the ordinal utility principle talks about ranking preference in order such as 1, 2, 3. My question is, what instance is numbers used? Were you in class last week? As Empa, were you in class last week? We did the cardinalists last week. I wasn't talking. I just asked you to reflect and then type your questions. I wasn't talking. What's the name? Asempa, we did that last week, so refer to your notes for last week. Aiba, we can now hear you. Okay, fine. Beatrice said, please, under the completeness, can we still have indifference care? Yes, we are saying that consumers can rank all their combinations. So it is the indifference curve that we are using to depict the assumption of completeness. Okay. So if you don't have indifference curve, then you cannot have your completeness assumption being fulfilled. Okay, so now let me go back to the board and then I will illustrate the diminishing and then the transitivity for you. Stop sharing. Before that, let me check randomly and see, because I need to get some scapegoats. You can't register for a course and you don't attend classes. Zenith College, I'm on you. Zenith. Gidisu Newton, are you online? Gidisu Newton, are you online? He didn't come to class today. Good. Shadrach Jamna, are you online? Jamra Shadrach. Shadrach, you are using Shadi. Okay. If that is you, fine. Let me do 2 more and then see. Kofi Godfred. Godfred Kofi. Godfred Kofi. Godfred Kofi is not. Oh, Kofi is online. It seems there's any people who are here. Faustina Aku. Faustina Aku, are you online? Please, this is Isaiah Nketia. How can Isaiah Nketia be Faustina Aku? What is that? Yeah, Faustina is here. Good. Faustina is here. Let me mention 2 more and then I will continue. I think I've seen Nora. Nora is online, right? I saw the name somewhere. Nora is here. And then Gideon Sapon. Gideon, are you here? Okay, so Gideon is not in class. 2 people are not in class from Zenith. Prof, please, I'm fine. Please, a minute, hold on. Okay, so 2 people are not in class from Barnes Dominic. I mentioned your name, you are not coming. It means you just joined. Dominic, you just joined. But Gideon is not here. Gideon is not here. Gideon is not here. Okay, so Gideon is not in class today. For this is for one. Zenith, I'll go on with another one. And Zenith, I had your message. Thank you. And all the other groups, last week I thanked you. So I appreciate your prayers and support towards my funeral. All right, let's continue. So I said I was going to demonstrate it on the board, and the board is not coming. All right, so I will answer those questions on transitivity and diminishing marginal utility using an indifference curve. So let's all go to the board. Now, I draw an indifference curve. I'm dealing with X and Y, so please don't touch your screen. I'm dealing with X and Y. Now, look at this carefully. So let me do the last one. So we say this is, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. This is origin 0. So let's do the same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now, when we talk about the law of diminishing marginal rate of substitution, what we are saying is this. Now, the individual is consuming 4 units of X and then 1 unit of what? Y. If the individual wants to consume more units of Y, that individual will need to what? Reduce his consumption of X. So if he wants to consume 2 units of Y by moving from 1 to 2 here, the individual can only do that by reducing his consumption of X from what? 4 to 3. So if this point is point A, and then this point is point B, we are saying that the individual is able to substitute the consumption of one commodity in order to increase the consumption of another commodity. And that is what we call the marginal rate of commodity substitution. Is it clear? Those who are asking about that one, is it clear? For you to increase your consumption of one commodity, you need to reduce your consumption of the other commodity. So if the person wants to increase his consumption of Y from 1 to 3, he needs to reduce his consumption of X from 4 to what? 2 to be able to get here. And that is what we call the law of, diminishing marginal rate of commodity substitution. Is it clear? If this one is clear, then I move on to the transitivity. Okay, good. Now, when we say transitivity, thank you, Madam Mavis. Yeah, I can see that it's clear. I feel say it's clear, so it's clear. Let's look at transitivity. So we have A, B, and then C. Okay. Now with transitivity, we said that if you say you prefer A to B, then it means that you should prefer B to C. Okay. If invariably, you would have to now prefer A to C. How does this work? Let me show you how it works. So let's go back to end difference curve. Now, what the law of transitivity tells us, who is touching the screen? What the law of transitivity tells us? What the law of transitivity tells us is that two indifference curves can never cross. If two indifference curves ever crosses, it means that they have violated the assumption of transitivity. So we will have this indifference curve. It should never happen that we will have another indifference curve that looks like this. So the law of transitivity enables us to have indifference curve not crossing. Now, if we have something like this, it means that you have a point here, okay? And then you have a point here. Remember, we said that points on the same indifference curve yields the same level of satisfaction. So if you have a point here and you say this is A, and then the point here and you say this is B, you are saying that the satisfaction derived from consuming B is greater than the satisfaction derived from consuming A because point B is higher than point A. Okay, but point B crosses, indifference curve, let me name this one IC1, and then name this IC2. Okay, but IC2 crosses IC1. And if it crosses IC1, you see that at this level, let me name this D, and then let me name this M. You see that at this level, D is greater than M. But at this level, A is less than M. This situation cannot happen. And that is why we say that if the individual prefers A to B, then the individual will prefer B to C, which means that the individual in the long run will prefer A to C and not the other way around. Is that clear? So that is the transitivity assumption. Indifference curves can never cross because if they cross, they violate many of the principles that we use to explain indifference curve. Is that clear? Okay, perfect. So let's go back to our slides and then continue. Now, what are the properties of an indifference curve? What are the properties of an indifference curve? One, we say that indifference curves are downward sloping. So you can see from the diagrams that I've drawn that indifference curves are downward sloping. So just like we draw the demand curve, you will see that indifference curves are downward sloping. And we say that if the quantity of one good increases, the other must decrease to maintain the same level of utility. I've said this one just a minute ago. But there are exceptions, and we'll talk about the exceptions as we go on. So in the case of perfect complement or satiation, the curve may have different shapes. That is an exception, which we'll look at in later times of this lecture. The second property is that the indifference curve is converse to the origin. Converse to the origin. So you see that we draw the indifference curve and then it shapes like that way. And that is what we use to explain the diminishing marginal rate of substitution. So consumers are more willing to give up a good they have in abundance for a good they have less of. So I just demonstrated this one to you. Then the third one is that indifference curves cannot intersect. I've done this one to you. So he said that intersection implies a logical contradiction in consumer preferences, violating the transitivity or consistency of preferences. And I think I've done this one too. I've explained this one too to you. Then we say that indifference curves, higher indifference curves represent higher utility. So further from the origin equals to higher utility because they indicate more of at least one good, and due to non-association, more is better. So we are saying that when you draw an indifference curve and you have multiples of them, the one that is far away is preferred to the one that is closer. Okay, that is the last one, the last property. Higher indifference curves represent higher utility. These are the properties of indifference curve in the question. So 3 minutes to reflect and then ask questions. Samsung, if you can't hear me, check your Samsung. Maybe your Samsung is... or all of you can't hear me. You all can't hear me? Oh, they can hear me. So Samsung, check your Samsung. Why? You won't change your name. You come and complain that you were in class and I didn't take notice of you. Yeah, so 3 minutes for reflection and then any question on the properties of indifference curve. You can type your question. Four messages. Let me see. We can hear you present. Okay. So there's no question. Good. Let's continue. Good. Let's make progress. Okay. So we've been talking about marginal rates of substitution. Marginal rate of substitution. There's a way we do that. Okay. So we say that marginal rate of substitution is giving us the rate at which a consumer is willing to give up units of one good, say good X, to get one more unit of another good, say good Y, while maintaining the same level of utility. And the formula is giving us MRS XY. When you see MRS XY, it means that the person is substituting X for Y. MRS XY means marginal rate of substitution X for Y. In other books, you will see marginal rate of commodity substitution. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. Now we say MRS XY is equal to negative dy over dx. The negative sign is telling us the slope of the indifference curve. Now, dy over dx is the same as marginal utility of x over marginal utility of y. And we know what marginal utility of x and marginal utility of y is. So I'm going back to the board, and then I'll demonstrate this one also to you. Okay. So we go to the board. Stop sharing. Stop sharing. Let's go to the board. So I can give you some small calculation to work with. When are you writing your quiz? Or you just started? The semester just started. Do you have any idea when you write your quiz? You can just type it in the chat box. Don't worry. I'll check it later. So we are saying that M R S X Y is equal to negative dy over dx. Don't get scared. Don't get scared. This is equal to mu of x over mu of y. So this is the formula for calculating the marginal rate of substitution. The rate at which the consumer is able to substitute one good for the other. So that is the marginal rate of substitution. As I said, you read other books, you see marginal rate of commodity substitution. That is the same thing. That is the same thing. So don't go and see that one and say that, say, okay. So what does this mean? This is where it's important to me. What does this mean? We know that by our calculation last week, we know that marginal utility is giving us, marginal utility of a commodity is giving us change in total utility over change in quantity. You remember that, right? Good. So when you see mu of x, what you are just saying there is that mu of x is giving us new total utility, which will be TU1 minus O total utility, which is TU0 over new quantity, which is Q1 minus old quantity, which is Q0. Whatever figure that you get here, we did this last week. Whatever figure that you get here, oh shit. Whatever figure that you get here is the figure for mu of x. Then you come and do mu of y. When I finish, I'll give you a numerical example. Mu of y. And that is giving us change in Tu over change in Q. The same decrement. So we have Tu1 minus Tu0 over Q1 minus Q0. Okay, whatever you get for this calculation, you go and put it at MUY, and then you do the division. Your value or the answer to that division is your marginal rate of substitution X for Y. So let me do a numerical example for us to see. So we will have commodity X, and then we will have commodity Y. So under commodity X, we have K, and then we have this one just using total utility. So K and then TU. And then under commodity Y, we also have the same thing, K and then TU. So we have 1, 2. And the total utility is, let's say 6, 10. And then here too, we have 1, 2. And total utility is, let's say 10, 18. Okay. Now the question is, find the marginal rate of substitution X for Y. And we said that the formula is giving us mu of X over mu of Y. Okay. Now we want to find mu of X. We want to find mu of X. So we say TU1 minus TU2 minus TU1. So we have TU2 is what? TU2 is 10. So 10 minus 6 over 2 minus 1. That gives us what? 4 over 1, and that is 4. And then we'll do mu of Y. And that is 18 minus 10 over 2, take away 1. That is KG language. 2 take away 1. So that is 8 over 1, and that is the same as 8. All right. So MRS for commodity X for Y is giving us 4 over 8. And that is what? 0.5, right? That is 1 over 2. 1 over 2. So that is equal to 0.5. Now, this means that the individual is willing to exchange half of his consumption of good X for 1 half unit of consumption of good X for 1 unit of consumption of good Y. The individual is willing to substitute half unit of consumption of good X for a 1 unit of consumption of good Y. This is what it means. Any question? If you don't understand this one there, I don't know what you understand again. Any question? If you have a question on the calculation I've done, kindly put it in the chat box. But I think it's very clear. It's very clear. Andrew, don't mind that Clement boy. Or you him. He is touching his screen. Or distorted. I don't know why FFF. It's clear. You say it's clear and you say you are confused. Which one should I take, Beatrice? If it is clear, then it means you've gotten it. For the formula, we did this last week. Oh. For the formula, we did this last week. The marginal utility thing, we did it last week. So everything here, if it's clear, then it means it's clear. Okay, let me do this. You didn't see the screen. Sorry, when I share the recordings, you will see. I think it's because of the phone or whatever you are using. But most people can see the screen. I know about 124 people are seeing the screen. Over 124 people are seeing the screen. So if you didn't, it means your network went off. Please next time go and buy a proper network. I didn't hear the interpretation. Okay, the final result. I said that the final result. What this means is that the individual is or will be able to substitute 0.5, which is half unit of commodity X, for 1 unit of commodity Y. That's the interpretation. I'm going to give you something to work on. I'll give you 5 minutes to do it, and then we will see. So we have, I'm doing this quickly. We have good X. So we have quantity, and then we have total utility. So we have quantity 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me not confuse you. So let's do only 2. In the near future, I will look at others. So we have 7 here, and then we have 12 here. So that is X. And then we have Y, quantity, and then total utility. And here to quantity 1 is giving us 5. Total utility. Quantity 2 is giving us 10 total utility. Now the question is, calculate MRS X for Y. Try this and let me see what you get. Look, is the MRSS also measured in units? Try this and let me see what you get. The next 2-3 minutes. Let me see those who will be able to get it. It's on the screen. You can check it. What was I going to do? Oh my God. You have to be pacifist too. We didn't have a kick. I didn't answer. Okay, so some people are writing some answers here. I won't confirm if it's correct or wrong. I want more people to solve it. So please solve it. Solve it. Some people are saying they had one. Please solve it. Solve it. Men follow be. And can say solve it. Let me go through the list again. Mauli ho. Now I'm on ho. Matilda Quay, are you here? Matilda Quay, are you here? Yeah, Matilda Quay is here. Elvis Agbeko, are you here? Elvis Agbeko, are you here? Agbeko is not in class. Okay. Emmanuel Doche, are you here? Richard Agbeko, please. The name here is Richard Agbeko. It's not Elvis Agbeko. Oh, I said, hey, Anna Mikaden. Yes, the name here is Doe. It's Doe Elvis Agbeko. I'm not referring to Richard. But the name here is Richard Gabriel Sinya. Why? Is it that you are with the person? So why is the name here different from the name I have here? And I'm saying that the name I mentioned is not Richard. It's Elvis Agbeko. So it's not you I'm talking about. Elvis Agbeko. He's not in class. The name is Doe Elvis Agbeko. He's not in class. Let me mark it before I forget. Let me mention the last one. Kennedy Ajay Kennedy. Kennedy Ajay is also not in class. And then let me see this one too. Kwame Divine. Divine Kwame. O Center. Divine Kwame. Kwame is also not in class. All right. Yeah, so the answer is 1. Perfect. It means that you've understood this thing. Very good. Clap for yourselves. You've done well. Let's go back. We'll finish very soon. So we have said that as more of a good X is consumed, the consumer is willing to give up less of Y to get an additional unit of Y, X. And that is the marginal rate of substitution that we have been talking, or I've been talking about. Now, there are special cases of indifference curves. Okay, so there are special cases of indifference curves. And these are the 3 instances where the indifference curve will not slope converge to the origin. So when the commodity is perfect substitutes, the indifference curve is a straight line. When the commodity is a perfect substitute, when you talk about perfect substitute, I hope you understand that that commodity has another commodity that performs the same function as that the commodity in question. So you can talk about Richoko and then you talk about Milo. They all do the same thing. Okay. So perfect substitute will not give you a normal indifference curve. And in that instance, the marginal rate of substitution is constant. The second one is perfect complements. Complements are commodities that are used together. Okay, they are used together. So that one too, the shape of the indifference curve is L-shaped. It's L-shaped. And because of that shape, it becomes difficult for you to calculate the marginal rate of substitution. So the marginal rate of substitution is undefined. In fact, when you go up in economics, like you do advanced and you are doing maybe intermediate, they tell you that MRS gives you what we call a corner solution. I don't want to bore you with all those things. But what you can say at this level is that the MRS is undefined. You can't calculate for the MRS when you are dealing with perfect complements. Then we have bad goods. Remember the other time I told you about good goods and then bad goods. Okay, and bad goods are upward sloping. They are upward sloping. So they behave like what? They behave like supply curve. They behave like supply curve. And we say that their MRS may increase if utility is reduced. So these are special cases under indifference curve. Okay. Now, you would note that I've been talking about curves. When you have two or more indifference curves, it becomes what we call an indifference map. So we said that an indifference map is a set of indifference curves, each representing a different utility level. The indifference map do not intersect, they are ordered and they are dense. And this is a typical example of an indifference map. So when you have a series of indifference curves, they are called indifference map. And this is what we mean by, when I said that more is preferred to less. So if someone is on IC2, he would want to move to IC3 because it means that the points on IC3 gives a higher level of satisfaction as compared to the points on IC1 or IC2. All right? So that is it with indifference maps. Any questions so far? Any question? I see some 7 messages here. Elvis Doe says he's in class. Divine Kwame says he's in class. Okay. Divine, I've cancel it. Don't worry. Elvis too, I've seen it. I'll cancel it. I think you just joined. You people, you were hiding somewhere. All right. So any question up to this stage? We'll be ending the class very soon. I said I'm teaching only indifference curve today. So with what you have learned and the indifference curve, you can't put it in. You can't go and then revise your notes and everything so that we are good to go. All right. So if you have a question, you can put it there. Of course, I've done the graphical representation with you already. So there's no need to do graphical representation again. Now, one of the things that we will learn or we need to understand about indifference curve is what we call the consumer equilibrium. It's what we call the consumer equilibrium. The consumer equilibrium. So all of us have what we call a budget line. Our budget line is simply the amount of money that we have in our pocket. Now, for us to be in equilibrium, the amount of money that we have in our pocket should be equal to the combination of goods that we would want to add, would want to have access to. So we say that the consumer is always in equilibrium where his indifference curve is tangential to his budget line. And I'll treat budget line in our next class, but I will still have to demonstrate this to you. So let's go to the whiteboard. Hey, somebody says his name is running low. His battery is running low. If I mention the name and he doesn't, it means he's gone off. Noah, I will still mention your name. If you don't indicate that you are here, it means you didn't come to class. So let's go to the board and then do something on budget. Budget. Why is my board not coming? Oh, okay, good. So graphically, we are saying that when I ask you to illustrate consumer equilibrium, we are saying that this is the individual budget line and this is the indifference curve. This one, I have to get it right. Good. So we are saying that this is the point of equilibrium. The point of equilibrium is the point where the consumer's indifference curve is tangential to the consumer's budget line. Okay. So where the consumer's budget line is tangential to the indifference curve is where the individual is said to be in equilibrium. Okay. Good. Any question? Some of my colleagues at Holy Child Center can't join us. Are you the spokesperson, Madam Nancy? Because I'm mentioning names, you want to cover for them. I'll mention their names. If they are not here, it means they didn't come to class. And I said, they asked you to post it, eh? Hey. Oh, don't worry. I'll still mention names. If they are not there, it means they didn't come to class. You know the reason why I'm doing this, right? Because you are over 280. And as you are aware, even today, we are just 150. So it's like 100 people constantly don't come to class. And they sit for exams. And they don't do well. And you still have to do things to help everybody. And I'm saying that I'm not going to do that again. So I will just, if there's anything that you would want to do to help, those who come to class are those we are going to help. Because you can't stay in the house and this is distance. So this one is you are doing double distance. You don't come to class and you go and write the exams, knowing that definitely the lecturer will try and help. No. It's not going to be like this time around. So if you don't come to class, you don't come to class. When the sharp catches you, that is it. Okay. Any comment on the equilibrium position for the consumer? So when you talk about the consumer equilibrium in under indifference curve, we are saying that the consumer is in equilibrium at the point where his indifference curve is equal to what? His budget line. Okay. As I said, I'll talk about the budget line and its activities in our next lecture. But I needed to let you know how the equilibrium situation is arrived at. Okay. So we are looking at, we're going to look at applications, and then I think that will be the last thing to do. Let me see. Yeah. So what do we use indifference? What do you use indifference curve theory for? One, it is used to understand consumer behavior. It is also used to understand. Income and substitution effect. We'll look at that one too in the later time. And then it's also used to do welfare analysis. And then it's used to do international trade. I have other ones here too. I hope I have it. Yes. It's also used to derive the demand curve through price consumption curves. This one is done and I think intermediate. I don't know whether you'll be doing that. Then it's also used to analyze substitution income effects, Hickson and Slutsky decomposition. Please, this is way above you. This is like advanced economics. But those who do economics further would talk about that. Steady welfare effects, and then it's also used to do consumer preferences. Yeah, there's I've not mentioned UCC campus register. Please, I'm just doing random. So if I don't mention your name, don't worry. It means your house witches are protecting you. And then all right. So there are certain limitations of the things that we have said under indifference curve. One, the assumptions. We are saying that relies on simplifying assumptions such as rationality and completeness of the consumer preference. So the assumptions is something that can be a limitation. If the assumption doesn't work, it means that you will not be able to achieve the analysis that you want to achieve. The ordinal utility, we said that provides information about ordinal preferences than cardinal utility. I think we have said this one already. And then non-converse preferences. We've looked at other types of indifference curves that may come up because of special cases. For example, if you have perfect complement, perfect substitutes, and other things, you have all these things happening. And when they happen, it means you'll not be able to do the analysis that you're supposed to do under indifference curve. Conclusion. Indifference curve analysis is a tool for understanding consumer preference and blah, blah, blah. All right. Any question? Any question? All right. So thank you for making time to join me. Please, right after here, go over the lecture. Okay. That is how you will not be able to forget. Right after here, just go over what we've done before you go and put the book down. And then you get the slides, you get the summary of the meeting, you get the recording and everything within the next few minutes, depending on how fast my machine is able to do all the conversion. All right, thank you, and have a nice Saturday afternoon. Tomorrow, go to church, all of you. And thank you once again for all those who expressed, supported in different ways. I appreciate it. God bless you. Bye-bye.